Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, taking a look at what I think is the most exciting matchup in the Week 3 slate. Tennessee heading on the road and playing the Florida Gators. This is a game as a college football fan that gets you through the week. Like, you wake up Sunday morning and you're already looking forward to this Tennessee-Florida game, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Cannot wait to get into it. Two teams that, we've been talking a lot about this offseason. Excited to get into it. Now, before we do again, just want to say thank you to you guys. All the support you guys have shown for these game breakdowns and all the offseason talk. Can't thank you guys enough. Over 8,000 subscribers. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, and again, the best part about doing this, learning from you guys, talking ball in the comment section. Drop your picks in the comment section. We'll talk there, Dale. I'm going to kick this one off to you. Tennessee with Joe Milton heading on the road to Gainesville, which I think is a very good defense, by the way. How are we feeling here?
That's what I'm excited for, is to really see what Joe Milton's got this year and what the Tennessee team can be, because obviously so far they really haven't been tested. They kind of slept through that Austin Peay game, it felt like. Yes. Virginia, they kind of did what you thought they were going to do. But so far, Joe Milton really hasn't been tested. I mean, he's kept the ball out of harm's way, but maybe a little bit on the accuracy. Has had some moments where you probably would like to see it be a little cleaner. I'm looking to see what essentially this new Joe Milton is. That's what I'm excited for.
That's why and again, this Austin Armstrong defense is going to test. I want to say a disclaimer before we get into the big matchups, the key players. This Florida defense is much better than I think the national media is giving credit for. You take away that 175-yard touchdown where R.J. Moten just, that was a joke. You take away that one play, this Florida Gators defense has been extremely stingy. I think Austin Armstrong's done a really good job with this group, establishing that new identity and physicality. And like you said, my evaluation on Tennessee so far, not much. They've kind of just been way more talented than both Virginia and Austin Peay. The big stat is Joe Milton, 0 interceptions. That's what you're hoping for. Another disclaimer, as Michigan fans, we're very familiar with Joe Milton. We've seen the worst of Joe Milton, but we also are a guy that, we want to see this guy reach his potential. Dill, let's start on the Tennessee offense, going up against the defense that, again, think is very underrated. This Tennessee offense matching up against this Florida Gators defense. How you feel about that?
Well, right now for Tennessee, we've seen them run the ball really, really effectively against the two teams they've played, and they've kind of leaned on that to an extent, I'd say. I think this Florida team, you look last year, their front seven was bad. This front seven with some of these new guys, especially those new defensive tackles. I mean, Shamar James looks like he is the absolute truth at that middle linebacker spot.
Yeah.
This has been a much tougher Florida defense. I mean, even Utah really didn't run the ball incredibly well on them. They obviously just gave up some big plays and some turnovers, hurt that defense.
That's my biggest takeaway from Tennessee and kind of watching back this game is, and that's why I'm so optimistic about this Tennessee team, not only in 2023, but the future. I feel like the first couple of years when they were emerging, kind of coming back with Coach Heupel, they were relying on Hendon Hooker and some phenomenal playmakers, guys like Jalen Hyatt, guys like Cedric Tillman, That being said, now I think you're seeing a more complete Tennessee, and we'll talk about their defense, which I think is massively improving, but they have the physicality in the trenches too. This isn't a team that is just going to try to kill you throwing the football. They are physical up front. I think they added some really good offensive linemen. They can run the football at a high level. That's what's taking for me Tennessee as a program that, they're dangerous and they can go bang with some top SEC teams too, being one of those best SEC teams.
And I want to see if Tennessee's offensive line is really that. They're right now, they're moving guys. They're opening up big holes. These two running backs, I think we all know, are very, very good. But I want to see them go play a Florida team that has really stiffened up in that side of the ball, and especially against the run. Because last year they were bad, but they look tough. I want to see if Tennessee, are they going to be able to run the ball all year kind of thing, and with some relative effectiveness.
Yeah, and again, when you talk about that Florida game, and what I'm most excited for in this matchup is Austin Armstrong loves to bring a ton of different looks, a ton of different pressures, and that's when you see Joe Milton struggle. When he has a clean pocket and he just has a target and you ask him to go rip it in there, he's good. We've all seen the offseason clips. There's not a more talented, powerful arm than Joe Milton in college football right now. I think the big question, and obviously Tennessee fans, we've talked about this, kind of have is, all right, can Joe Milton go through his progressions and make the correct decisions? I don't think he's been tested yet. think this Austin Armstrong defense will certainly test you. And like you said, Prince you, I think you have Shamar James coming off, Chris McClellan. They have the guys up front to maybe put Joe Milton in some uncomfortable spots.
Well, we'll see, because it's no easy task getting after this Tennessee. I mean, their offensive line is good. It's experienced. The guy obviously had a transfer at left tackle. This is a tough unit. Again, I think like you think the old Tennessee team, they'd spread it out because they can't do anything else. This is a tough unit. Again, they're playing a unit that I think is vastly improved, and I'm excited to see if like that's the truth. Like, again, they played Utah against Baylor, had their moments, not necessarily looking like the old Utah team up front. But this Florida defense, I do think, is better. There again, this is their. I want to see are these young guys really like as good as we kind of think?
I want to say the transfer left tackle John Campbell against Virginia took a guy and put him right into the tunnel. I don't know. I'm sure Tennessee fans have seen this. I don't know if you saw this. Like Michael Orr, blindside out of the movie, took this guy 20 yards off the field, legitimately into the tunnel. Absolute dog in him. All right, let's talk about this Florida offense where, for me, like you talk about this Florida program, it was ugly against Utah. There's things that they have to fix, and if there is something on the offensive side they have to fix, it's all on the offensive line. Like Graham Mertz probably not getting through his progressions quick enough. Dill, again, talking about this Tennessee team and them taking that next step in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball, I think they're coming along too.
Well, Tennessee flies around now. You just have a different especially look at the Virginia game. I mean, everybody, the secondary, the two linebackers. I mean, Pilley and Beasley look like that's a really, really good unit, and I'm really excited to see what they can do all season. But it just has a different energy to me, where it was like last year and maybe the years past. I mean, last year was like kind of when the change started, but certainly the years before, it's like a defense that didn't tackle very well, wasn't very physical, didn't like rally to the ball as hard as you want.
Their mentality on defense was like, all right, let's just see if we can hold them to 3. Like, we're going to give up yards. We win by outscoring teams. We don't win by getting stops. That narrative's changing. Guys like Tyler Bear and Amari Thomas, like it's just a more talented team. They're getting it done on the recruiting trail too. I think they have some young cats that can step up. Arian Carter, a guy that I'm certainly keeping my eyes out for. That's what I'm looking for, Dale. Can this Tennessee team get after Graham Mertz, who, again, probably holds the football a little long, and that offensive line just is not the offensive line that we're used to seeing for the Florida Gators, especially under Billy Napier, and you look back to last year. Now, one thing I'm excited for Florida, the young cats are coming along. Eugene Wilson is that guy. I think you have a really veteran dude with Ricky Pearsall. Eugene Wilson, I think, is going to be a true freshman All-American. I think Aiden Mizell also could be a true freshman All-American. I am excited to see if Florida can hit some of those explosive plays with a ton of speed and playmaking ability, albeit young, at that wide receiver spot.
Well, and I am wondering if they can do something like do a little misdirection, some bubbles, some things to take advantage of the aggression. Because, again, I think if they think they're going to sit back in the pocket, I really do think this Tennessee team is too tough. I think the defensive line is vastly underrated in terms of how good they are nationally. I mean, they're good inside and out. They rush the passer really well. The young guys are really, as you mentioned, are stepping up. So I do think Florida's going to need to maybe change their offensive approach and try to get Mizell and Eugene Wilson and Caleb Douglas and these running backs like some space a little more unconventionally and use the aggression of the Tennessee defense.
Yeah, that is like the problem. Is I do think that Florida's offense is getting forced to get away from what they conventionally want to do, because I just don't know if they have the guys up front to be that dominant offensive line that's going to lean on other teams. So again, like you said, maybe some draws, maybe some swing passes, maybe some misdirection.
We'll get the ball to Eugene Wilson. I mean, you're right. When he's got the ball in his hands, he's really, really good. And I feel like that's what started to work a little bit against Utah. It's just a little too late, is get the ball in his hands on screens and some other things and let him go to work.
You know my take on college football. It ain't that hard. Get it to your playmakers. Get it to the guys that are going to create the explosive plays. Eugene Wilson, one of those dudes. Get it to him.
Secondary and see if they can tackle a little better. Frankly, unit that last year, look like they gave up a lot of yards. And again, I don't think they've been tested because they haven't had a team that can just
I don't know, man. Virginia's offense and Tony Elliott is getting going. I think he scored over 25 points last week.
But that's the thing, that you haven't really seen this secondary get tested, that a unit that was maligned last year. And again, they returned a fair amount of really guys who, again, feel like they have talent, but you're going to see, again, this offense, these wide receivers, yeah, they're coming along, and that's probably where you can get after Tennessee a little bit because I just think the front seven's awesome.
Yeah, the narrative around this Tennessee defense certainly changed. I think for both defenses, certainly changing. Dill, let's get to the pick. Seeing the line, Tennessee touchdown, Tennessee 8.5. I don't know if it'll go outside of 10. Dill, your pick for this game. Hit us with it.
I think I like Tennessee mainly because I don't totally trust Graham Mertz's ability to deal with like a little bit of hecticness around him. It just, when Utah was really like starting to turn the heat up, it felt like he, again, became a bit of a sack magnet, like couldn't really get out of the way of that. And
it snowballed so bad in that second quarter. Like, I went back and watched that game a couple times because I am really just a fan of this Florida Gators team, and like I want to watch the young guys. That second half snowballed in such a bad, ugly way where it like reminded you of Graham Mertz's time at Wisconsin. They got it going back in the second half, but you're right. If it does get like Tennessee goes up 14-0 or something, like I just worry that it's going to snowball a little bit. Now, my take on this game, I like Tennessee to win. That being said, I think Florida certainly can win this game. I just don't. I mean, like at this point, from what I've seen with Florida, like I'm not like going to try to pick them to like take this game, but I think Florida can certainly win this game. I'm not taking a side in here in terms of like betting on a pick. This is a game that I'm just going to watch. I would take Tennessee with the points probably if I had to bet, but Dale, this Florida team, especially with this defense, I want to see if Florida can kind of turn it up on Joe Milton and get some of those turnovers, get it loud in the swamp, because that I think could really work out for Florida.
Yeah, and that'll be the thing. Again, if Florida can like kind of play like they did the first quarter against Utah like that, I was like, man, this is like Graham Mertz-led offense is not bad. But you are right. I mean, like a couple bad turnovers, penalties, like some weird, like obviously the jersey change was one of the worst things I've ever seen. But like they did have some momentum going. When the momentum got off the tracks, things really. I just think this Tennessee defense might be too much. And again, I think Tennessee's offense is good enough. Again, they did lose some playmakers, but Brew McCoy is still.
Oh, yeah, Brew McCoy, Keaton, Squirrel, right? Like in the running backs, they're going to be fine at playmaker. And even if they're not fine, Josh Heupel could scheme up some touches for me that I could do some work with. Like that offense is just so fun to watch.
I don't doubt that offense is going to score a few points, and I just think this defense is.
All right, I'm actually going to make a pick here. I don't want a fence ride. I'm not a fence rider.
Thank God.
Outside of a touchdown, give me Florida in the points. It's going to be loud in Florida. This is a game that I'm not going to the kiosk and betting. Give me Florida in the points when it's loud in Gainesville. I cannot wait for this game. It's going to be a blast. Again, drop your picks in the comment section. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.